Rob Hersov, thank you very much for joining us this morning. How are you doing?
Leto, I couldn't be better.
Yes.
So, we had a hot day yesterday. I drove out to Malmesbury.
Yes.
Castile. Never been there before.
Oh, in Malmesbury.
Yeah, and it was 41 degrees and there was wind and sand and twisters. It was dramatic, beautiful, hot, but today's a bit cooler.
No, interesting. I must say I am looking forward to our discussion today. There's just quite a whole lot to discuss. But Rob, let's first start with your family lineage, because many South Africans do not know the history of the Jewish population migrating from Eastern Europe to South Africa in the 19th century and also in the 20th century as well. So your family is part of that history, so it would be great if you could tell us about that.
Well, I mean, everyone thinks I'm Jewish. I'm not. But I have Jewish heritage on my father's side.
Okay.
And on my father's side, the Hersov side, they came from somewhere, Russia, East Germany, Bulgaria, through Lithuania, through the UK, it wasn't the UK then, but through England, to South Africa in the late 1890s.
Okay.
And, it was in dribs and drabs. So one relative would come out and then the brothers or sisters would follow. And it was a journey because they were escaping. They were leaving, leaving the bad part of Europe in those days, which was Russia and pogroms and anti-Semitism and all the sort of problems that people were leaving. And they came to South Africa, arrived in Cape Town, my great-grandfather, and moved up country. So that's where the Hersov side of the family came from. That's the paternal side. The maternal side was in about 1860. So I'm going to get the dates wrong, but after the Indian Rebellion, Sir Sidney Ralph George Herbert left India and retired, came down to Natal, to Durban. And so many of my mother's side were based in Zululand, in Ishawi, for that matter.
Nice.
And funnily enough, both the Herbert, Hersov, Llewellyn, Palmer, and Taylor, which are the four names within the broader family group, all went to Michaelhouse. So there've been, three generations of four links of the family went to Michaelhouse. So that kind of pulled everything together.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. So when they arrived in South Africa, in, as you say, in the 19th century, how was their condition from your paternal side? Were they penniless? Were they educated? Because you do mention that they were running away from pogroms and also the anti-Semitic that was happening in Europe.
They had nothing. When they arrived, they had nothing.
And if you look at this community, they built, enterprises. They were quite, effective even in politics. They had nothing. So they started from ground up.
Well, they say the Jews are the chosen race, and they've survived 3,000 years. So they have to have something going for them. It's not just the wonderful Shabbat dinners on Friday. But I wasn't brought up Jewish, but my relatives on my father's side arrived with nothing. And, they start with very small businesses, tailors and shopkeepers and things like that. They moved up country. They were involved in the Boer War, helping the Boers, actually on the side of the Boers, from what I believe.
Not on the side of the British.
Well, I think it was, it depends on what part of the family. But I do believe that they were, probably more working with the Boers during the Boer War on my father's side. My mother's side were British military. So they're both sides of the table. And my grandfather, Bob, who died age 56, and I think in about 1950-something, died very young, he founded Angloval. And he was one of four brothers. And they could only afford to send him to university. They couldn't afford to send any of the other children to university. And he went and did mining engineering at Wits because he was obviously the smart and talented one, and they all knew it.
Was he the elder brother?
He was, I think, second. Actually, you're asking me questions I don't know the answers to. But I think he was the second oldest. I remember there's Jack, Max, and all the names, different names. And Bob was extraordinary. He went to, he did mining engineering. He graduated, and he then teamed up with his best friend, whose name was Slip Menel. And the Menels and the Hersovs founded Angloval. But Bob Hersov was the driving force behind it because Slip Menel was a stockbroker and Bob Hersov was the mining engineer. And they had nothing. They had nothing but their wits and their education, which is often the case with refugees or people that move to another country. You take with you your family, your tribe, your culture, and whatever education you have. That's the only thing that travels with you.
Yes, yes.
And he set up Angloval. And the story goes that, he looked at all the different mines being established and realized they were in an arc.
These mines.
There was a mine here, mine here, mine here, and mine here. And he said it must be a reef.
Yes.
Because until then, mining was assumed, you drill down and it's a pipe, which it was. Mm. But he reckoned they were all connected. There was a reef that connected them.
Oh, okay.
And that's where he bought up land between the different mining companies and launched Angloval Mining. And it was a big success. And they took it public very early on because Slip Menel was skilled at that.
Okay.
And then,
so it went public.
I think the first,
years.
first, Rand Leases, I think, was their first mine, and they took it public straight away.
Okay.
And I think there was a disaster. There was a mess financially, and they actually ended up paying back all the investors and starting again. I believe that's in the history books. Mm. But they then went on to do other mining businesses and industrial businesses. And at the peak, Angloval owned Consul Glass, Anglo Alpha, Baker's, Bowman's, I&J, Five Roses. I can go on and on and on. So
all this consumer, so they divide
mining and industrial, And I think if Bob Hersov had lived, to 70 or 80, or to my father's age, 99 this year, he would have been the most successful entrepreneur South Africa ever produced, and wealthier than Oppenheimers and Ruperts and others, because he built it from nothing.
It's an interesting one. So if we go back when they founded Angloval, I think Rasool was also started through them.
Correct.
Can you tell us about?
Yeah, my grandfather. I still have the original document, and Dan Maracana and Mteto Nyati of Eskom know that I have it, and I said I'll show it.
Oh, okay.
I have it in of Eskom, and I've spoken to also the Rasool executives. They know I've got it too. The original Fischer-Tropsch, which was the technology of taking oil from coal. It was a German technology.
Okay.
I have the original document stamped with the sort of German Nazi stamps. It was original in the 1930s.
Yes.
So he brought the technology to South Africa, began building, wasn't called Rasool in those days, began building this business, and then the government nationalized it from him with compensation.
So they didn't expropriate it.
With compensation. They did. But to be fair, he would never have been able to raise the money to have built it anyway.
Yes.
It was ultimately a state-owned enterprise, and it made sense to be it.
Interesting. And
so it was EWC, but with compensation.
So the name Fischer-Tropsch is
Fischer-Tropsch.
Tropsch.
Yeah.
Are those surnames?
There are two German scientists, Fischer and Tropsch. So the process is called the Fischer-Tropsch process. And that's the origin of Rasool.
Wow.
So he founded Rasool. And our family have, over the years, my uncle founded Stonehage Fleming, which is now
an investment company.
Yeah.
My word.
Yeah. Our house in Hermanus is called Stonehage. That's where the name came from.
Yeah.
We were client number one.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And NAC, my father was one of the co-founders of National Airways Corporation, NAC.
Okay.
And on and on and on. So many businesses were founded by Hersovs. My brother, my father, my uncle, my grandfather, and me.
And Angloval, you ended up selling it to the Motsepe family, am I right?
Yeah, there's a step between that. So in the mid-90s, by the time you get to the third generation of a family, and there are two families, there's Hersov and Menel.
Right.
Each had children. They all had the grandchildren.
Okay.
And once you get to that third level, there are 13, 14, 15 heirs.
Yes.
Not all of them want to work.
Okay.
Some want, dividends.
Yes.
Some want to be in the business, but are qualified or not qualified to be in the business. It becomes very complicated, particularly with two families.
Yes.
And so, my father was running Angloval.
Okay.
And Rick Menel, my generation, but older than me, who had a lot of mining experience, wanted to be the next in line to run the business.
Oh, okay.
And my father then messaged me. I was in New York at the time working for Rupert Murdoch.
Wow.
And he said, look, Rob, if you're going to ever run this company, you need to come back now. And I said, Dad, I don't believe South Africa has a chance. I was worried about South Africa.
Were you worried at that time?
Because, we hadn't got rid of apartheid.
Yeah, apartheid
there was all the sanctions, all sorts of problems. And I was being successful in America.
Yes.
I'd fallen in love. I was going to propose to this American girl. And I thought my life is now overseas. Do I want to go back to South Africa with all its potential chaos and
the
threats.
problems.
So my father decided to split the company into Anglovol Mining
Okay.
and Anglovol Industries.
Okay.
Anglovol Mining then went to the minerals, with us having a minority stake.
Okay.
And we kept Anglovol Industries.
Oh.
And then Rick Mennell did the deal with Patrice Motsepe, and eventually it became African Rainbow Minerals.
Okay.
So
I see.
that was Anglovol Mining.
I see.
And then Anglovol Industries, we eventually broke up and sold off. I think my brother's still on the board of AVI.
Oh,
Anglovol
okay. I
Industries
see.
so that's what happened. So I never joined the family business.
You just did your own thing.
Yeah. And for people who say I'm a trust fund baby,
Yeah.
I'm not. My mum and dad are still alive.
He's still alive.
I haven't got any trust funds. I've done it myself. So there we go.
It's an interesting one, Rob.
And then my mum's side, very briefly.
Yeah.
So they've, my grandfather, my mother's father,
Yes.
opened the batting for Transvaal in 1937, 1938.
Okay.
Age 16, 17. He was a phenomenal cricketer.
Oh,
And he
okay.
signed up to go and fight in the Second World War. And he got captured by the Italians in North Africa, sent to prison, Stalag 7B in Silesia.
Sure.
And, he came back. It was very tough for him. He spent 3 years in a prisoner of war camp.
Sure.
So he was a stockbroker. And then my mum and my dad got together and created 4 children, of which I'm number 2.
Oh, number 2. Now, interesting, Rob.
But I spent 31 years of my life, most of my career overseas. So I did Ridge, Michael House,
Yes.
UCT, 2 years in the army as an infantry officer.
Okay, so
83
you
and
were also
84.
conscripted as well, right?
And I went in. And then I left the country in 85 to find fame and fortune, explore the world. And I stayed overseas for 31 years.
For 31 years.
I came back in 2017 in January. I've
Yeah.
gone 31 years.
Is it, it's an interesting one. Hey?
Yeah.
But why do you think, Rob, in the wide community, you still have the anti-Russian sentiment?
Because they're communists. The Russians,
I can understand with the Cold War. I mean, the apartheid was ruling through the Cold War, and obviously they justify their rule that the communists are going to come and take over and so on. But why do you think till this day the wide community in South Africa still has an anti-Russian?
Because Russia is the evil cousin of the West. Okay?
Is it?
They are.
Right.
They're Western European,
Okay.
mostly. Moscow's Moscow's east of West Europe, but it's still part of Europe.
Right.
They're Judeo-Christian.
Yes.
They've got issues with Muslims, as does all of Europe. They are Judeo-Christian, but they're like the evil cousin. They're like the uncle that comes to the Christmas party, and flirts with the barmaids, gets drunk, becomes a pain in the neck, and you want to get rid of him. That's what Putin is. And Russia is not a democracy. It's a militant, crazy, nuclear-powered, economically weak threat. Russia is not a friend. It's the oligarchs and Putin. And if they don't like you, they get rid of you. It's a cruel and evil, somewhat Western country. And, Trump believes Russia's not the ultimate enemy. China is.
Okay.
Or the ultimate threat.
Yeah.
China is. And I think he's right. I think Russia, you can't trust them. They're bad guys at the top level, not the people, but the bad guy at the top. And it's typical for the ANC to go and flirt with Russia so they can be bribed. They can be bribed by Iran, bribed by China, bribed by Russia. Typical ANC. They're prostitutes. They bend over and take money from whoever will take them. But for me, I believe in the Judeo-Christian West.
Yes.
If you look at the American dream, it is the most powerful, exciting, alluring thing that has ever happened on this planet. Freedom, the freedom to speak openly, the freedom to practice your religion openly, the freedom to start a business and take a risk and build a business is a Western concept. And it started in England at the Magna Carta and then got amplified and beautified by the American Constitution. It is because of the West, the Anglosphere, Britain and America, that we have freedom. And you are not free in Russia, I can tell you that right now. And I don't know why South Africans look to BRICS, look to Russia, look to China. I know why the ANC does, because they take money from anyone. Bunch of crooks.
It's interesting because, I mean, in the black community, there's a different perspective on Russia because obviously Russia assisted the anti-apartheid movement.
Yeah, but so did the Jews. And why are they anti-Semitic? Why is ANC anti-Semitic? Explain that to me.
I wouldn't say they're anti-Semitic. I think they're anti the what's happening in Gaza right now.
Because Iran's paying them to be.
Are you serious, Rob, that Iran is actually paying
100%.
The African National
ANC
Congress?
was bankrupt.
Yeah.
They couldn't pay their bills.
Yes.
The next day they had money. It came from Iran. Iran is bribing them. The ANC are prostitutes.
So you say the stance in Israel is they are remote controlled by Iran.
Correct. So the ANC is an Iran proxy. Cyril, Naledi, 100%. They're kissing Iran's ass. That's your wonderful ANC liberation movement. I mean, I doubt you are voting ANC.
No, I'm not.
They're a bunch of gangsters, criminals, losers. If Mandela was alive today, he would be disgusted with the ANC. He would reject the ANC. He would be horrified. Look, the ANC did a good job from 94 to, say, 2008. No one can deny that. They markedly improved mostly black people's lives. South Africa was a meritocracy. South Africa grew at 3, 4, 5% economic growth.
Yeah, under Mbeki.
Things really worked. Under Mandela and Mbeki, South Africa worked. It was the wonderful Rainbow Coalition. And then that gangster, Jacob Zuma, came in, and then the spineless Cyril came in. And the last 10, 12, 14 years, they've destroyed South Africa.
Yeah. So with what you are saying that Iran is funding the ANC.
100%.
And I remember there was another video that you're saying it's coming through MTN. How is
MTN structures.
How is this money coming in?
MTN's in Iran.
Okay, yes, they're operating.
Yeah. And, Naledi Pandor's been flying back and forward, and a briefcase comes back fuller every time. And Pala, I mean, where did that money come from? Trading buffaloes. So, can we see the report? I would not be surprised if that was Iranian money. It allegedly is. So these are gangsters. These are crooks. By the way, South Africa's run out of money and the ANC's run out of money.
Yeah.
As of today, run out of money. The ANC's bankrupted this country. They've broken every state-owned enterprise. The cadres and BEE have stolen and broken the country.
Yes.
So where's the money coming from? Iran, Russia, China. But Russia and China is drying up very quickly. And very soon, America is going to say to Israel, flatten Iran. And the ANC, Iran proxy ANC, will have nowhere to go for their money. They can't steal and break anymore in South Africa, and they've got no one to pay them. So guess what happens? They're going to have to stand up and say, our ANC racist, socialist, and centralist ideology doesn't work, and it doesn't. And at some point, there's going to have to be an ANC person, and I don't know who it is yet, that stands up and says, let's try the other way. Let's try free market capitalism. And if they do that, what's left of the ANC merges with the DA, FF Plus, Patriotic Alliance, Inkatha and ACDP, forms a centrist right government. Our economic growth will take off like a rocket.
But we have it at the moment. They are in coalition with the government of national unity.
No, but
the DA is there, but obviously the policies, it's mostly the ANC policies that are being rolled out.
Correct.
But I mean, the reality is they are in a single government.
Correct. But all the key ministries that control ideology, international affairs, money, and anything important are still run by the ANC. And the ANC is still an arrogant, kleptocratic, ineptocratic organization. And what is the ANC? It's got communists. I mean, how do you have communists in this day and age? Is moronic. Gwede, grow up. And you have trade unionists who are holding back the country.
Which is the
They're still in the ANC.
Right?
They're still in the ANC. Then you have the BEE elites who are still eating like pigs at the trough. Okay. You have the cadres who are being paid. And then you have a small group of ANC people who I would call the capitalists, the free market thinkers, but they're too scared to put their hands up and say, our ideology has failed. Let's try something different. But they're in there. And that they need to emerge, because at the moment, the GNU has 3 priorities.
Yes.
It's going sideways. We're never going to get economic growth. Forget that, okay? Unemployment will increase.
Okay.
The GNU has 3 priorities. 1, keep Jacob Zuma out of government. That's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 priority. The 6th priority is economic growth, which they're not even talking about. Do you ever heard those 2 words, economic growth, from the GNU? I haven't. And the 3rd is safety and security.
Yes.
So the GNU is a miracle. Yes. I'm glad it's there. We need to get behind it. But we need the ANC to wake up, grow up, and face reality. Their ideology has failed.
If you are talking about the elite of the ANC that actually believe in an open market system, they were the first beneficiary of BEE. I know you've got quite a whole lot of grievances
with 2 groups.
With black economic empowerment. And I also do think as well, Rob, that black economic empowerment was also conceptualized by big business. If you can remember in 1985, after the Rubicon speech?
How old were you? How old were you?
I was born in 1988.
Right. So asking me to remember, I was 25.
Yes,
yeah, but I know what you mean. That was sanctions.
But Gavin really left, right? And he met the African National Congress in Zambia, right? To find a solution,
Gavin.
Right? Knew him, great guy.
Uncle Gavin.
Yes. So he left and he went to go meet with the African National Congress and to find a solution. I mean, even the government at the time threatened to shoot off his plane.
They didn't like, they would never have done that, but they didn't like him being there.
Right. Yeah. But obviously that's where the sort of the capital gates were open.
Yeah, but BEE wasn't discussed in 1985.
But if you look after that, like, for example, the first BEE company called NAIL, New Africa Investment Limited, that was created in 1990. And it was created by Sanlam, right?
Correct.
It was created by Sanlam. And most of the directors that were there, right, were part of, like, Dr. Ntato Mutlana was there.
Correct. But what are we saying?
So I'm saying that the people that actually conceptualized the idea of BEE, including the elites, don't you think that the private sector should also take responsibility, because they also conceptualized
whomever. I don't care who takes responsibility. It hasn't worked. It's enriched 1,000 individuals and not the people of South Africa.
But that wasn't the intention to enrich the majority. It
Why
has to enrich the political elite.
Well, whatever it is. I don't know what the intention was. I don't think you do either. But what it has done is enriched Patrice, Selamaloko, Nkunku Sawazi, Trevor Manuel, I can go on and on and on, Moss and Goashang, munch at the trough. They've got enough. We need to focus on the properly disadvantaged people, because it hasn't included them. And Julius Malema, the only smart thing he's ever said in his life, and I was with him when he said it, was BEE doesn't work. It enriches the elites, the friend of the ANC. It creates ANC voters, but what it doesn't do is enrich anyone below that level. BEE, instead of giving 30% again to Patrice, you give 30% to the workers in your factory or your company. It's like they become equity owners. They're aligned, and they become part of the formal economy and the business community. Julius, you said one smart thing, and I agree with you. So BEE's reached a point where it's creating huge cost, lack of productivity, and lack of meritocracy. Is just damaging to business. Enough's enough. We need to reverse it. And there's there's an unbelievably new thing that's come out. Anthea Jeffrey, who works for the Institute of Race Relations. She's a genius, a wonderful woman. She's fighting against socialism all the time.
Okay.
Has written a paper. BEE has failed.
Yes.
Explained factually why. Needs to be reversed. And a new concept introduced, EED.
Which stands for?
Economically empowered, disadvantaged. And it's based on means test. If you're poor and disadvantaged, this is going to be good for you. And it's vouchers. It's a voucher system. And you give people vouchers, and this is in action all over the world, in India, Colombia, Chile, and America. You give very poor people vouchers that they can use to buy a better schooling system for their children, or better healthcare, etc.
Okay.
The voucher system is the free market, whereas BEE is just you elite get money, you elite enough, and it's holding back the country, and it's failed. So let's roll back BEE. Let's say it's over, and have a look at EED, and I'll send you the paper. It's fascinating and intelligent and well thought through. But you know what we need?
Yes.
We need Patrice and the gang to stand up and say, we agree, BEE should come to an end. But do you ever hear them say anything?
No, they
munch at the trough. That's all they do.
Because they're afraid to lose their interest, I guess.
Well, they've got enough, don't you think? I've got enough. They've got enough. Now, come on, stand up for the country for once, like I'm doing and you're doing.
Yes.
Do you ever hear the BEE crowd say anything? Silence of the lambs.
No, it's really an interesting one. So, what do you say with the finance minister Enoch Godokwan?
So I like the guy
in increasing the VAT at 0.5% this year and also next year as well, which bumps it up to 16%.
It's
where would
madness.
you have raised the funds to fund these so-called priority?
I'm glad you asked.
Okay, let's go through
Do
that.
you know what the ANC has never been able to do?
Yes.
Not one of them are business people. They do not understand how to create a business, generate revenues, profitability.
Yes. Okay.
They are thick. They were Soviet educated. Soviet, your guys, the Russians, the idiots, the bad guys. Okay. Soviet educated. They have absolutely no idea how to create value, generate income.
Yes.
Or generate economic growth. They don't know. All they do is know how to break and steal and centralize decisions. We have a healthcare system in South Africa, and this moron Aaron Motsoaledi is pushing NHI. Why don't we fix what we've got instead of creating a whole new thing we can't afford? Okay. You know why? Because they can steal. The nicest thing for the ANC is to be able to steal from state-owned enterprises. And that's why every single state-owned enterprise is bankrupt and broken.
Okay.
ANC did it. So you asked me a question.
Yes.
Where does the money come from? We have more embassies around the world than any other country except one. Why do we need embassies in Bolivia and Honduras? You know why? So ANC retirees can go and live there for 4 years. Okay, it's for cadres.
Okay.
Close half the embassies, sell off the land. We don't need embassies there.
Okay, that's the first
people. Don't let anyone fly business class. Anyone in government, including ministers, they can pay for their own dam. They get enough salary. Why fly business class? They can fly economy. Don't let these hundreds of thousands of junior civil servants fly all over the world to these stupid conferences.
Yes.
Brand South Africa. What a waste of time. Okay? They're spending money. We can cut costs so easily and generate economic growth. Just cut costs. The ANC don't want to cut costs because they're spending it to bribe cadres, BEE, to vote for them. And the social grant is a bribe. The 350 Rand social grant is a bribe. Here's a grant. We're not going to create economic growth. We're not going to give you a chance for a job.
Monthly stipend.
Here's your monthly stipend. Vote for us. So what the ANC does is malevolence, is evil to the nth degree, is make people dependent on them for money, so they vote for them. But we've run out of money. And that's the best thing of all. We've run out of money because the ANC ain't going to be able to pay their cadres anymore, and the ANC will collapse. And they won't have Iran paying for them anymore, bribing them. It's a wonderful thing. So Enoch, cut costs.
Yes.
Why can't you cut costs? You've got 32 ministers in the government. Do you know Norway has 18 ministers? Argentina has 9. Why do we need a ministry of women? Why do we need a ministry of sports, arts and culture? Gayton's doing a good job.
Okay.
It's bribery and corruption. ANC is very good at that. I could cut 200 billion Rand out of the budget overnight.
By also selling, I heard you say...
Sell state-owned enterprises.
Sell state-owned. Would you sell all of them or?
Pretty much all of them, yeah. You can partially, you can do full privatization.
Yes.
Which I do with South African Airways. Why does South Africa need an airline? We've got all the airlines flying anyway. Why does South Africa need one? But I do full privatization of some state-owned enterprises.
Yes, like partially.
I'd break up Eskom into the 3 areas that they're looking at right now.
Distribution.
Production and transmission.
Okay.
And sell off some of those. And then you can do public-private partnerships in others.
And others as well.
So, Transnet could be a public-private partnership.
Okay.
PRASA could be sold off completely to private operators, and even on a decentralized basis. So you could sell off PRASA Western Cape to whomever,
Okay.
or to the Western Cape
To
government.
decentralize it.
Decentralize.
Okay.
And that's the most important word. People ask me about Cape exit. It's not going to happen, guys.
Yes. Jack Miller was here.
Yeah, I know. I like Jack, but it's not going to happen. It's not impossible. It's improbable. But what we really need is a halfway step to that.
Okay.
And that's to decentralize. So why should Pretoria make all the decisions? We know how stupid they are in Pretoria. Why are they making all the decisions?
But we're not a federal. We're a,
Make it more federal.
you want South Africa to be more federal.
Yes.
But we're a republic.
Doesn't matter. You can have a federalization within a republic. You can have the Western Cape making all Mpumalanga or the northwest province
Okay.
being in charge of its own railways, being in charge of its own whatever, sewage, water, whatever. And generating its own rates and services and taxes.
Yes.
And being responsible to break even. Push the decisions down to the local areas. What will happen is most of the ANC run provinces will absolutely collapse.
They will.
Like Gauteng's doing.
Yes.
Can you believe Cyril Ramaphosa suddenly noticing for the G20 that Gauteng is falling apart? What has Cyril been doing the last few years? Sleeping in his chair?
He always seems surprised.
He
wasn't happy on the state of Gauteng.
Cyril is an idiot, full on.
It's an
and
interesting.
You can tell him from me.
So, Rob, with your investment, right? With your investments, you wanted, I think, to operate some airports as well. And I'm not sure if that happened. So, are you still looking to buying some airports that are there, especially I think you spoke about the ones in the Garden Route.
Correct.
Yeah.
So
that one was built because of PW bought a state in
Nick Ferguson and I had a look at AXA, Airports Company of South Africa, which is incredibly badly run.
Okay.
And as is anything ANC.
Solely state-owned. AXA.
State-owned.
Yeah.
And, there's Johannesburg Airport, Durban Airport, Cape Town Airport, which are the main thoroughfares.
Yes.
But the secondary airports, George, Uppington, Bloemfontein, etc., have not been given any love, and they're falling apart at the seams because the money goes to the big airports.
Oh, okay.
And basically, we had a look at it and said, "This is ridiculous. We could make these airports self-sufficient, independently and collectively." So we tried to have a serious discussion with the head of AXA, but she's not interested. She's like EFF, Mrs. Mpofu. She believes in nationalizing. Yeah, or ex-wife. She believes in nationalizing banks, lands, and mine. So she's, idiotic to the nth degree to believe in that. But she's professional.
Yes.
And when we met, she was professional and engaging.
Yes.
So I credit her with that, even though her ideology is completely insane.
Yeah.
So we couldn't get any discussion going with her on this matter. But then we tried to speak to Fikile Mbalula.
Oh, he was the Minister of Transport at the time.
But, that's Fikile's a whole nother issue.
Yeah.
And we couldn't break through him. So we just announced in the press, we're prepared to buy the secondary airports in South Africa and threw out a number, 2.5 billion rand.
Okay.
And Fikile then goes onto the press the next day.
Yes.
And he goes, this is funny. Fikile says, we're not selling the airports to Rob Hersov, they're of strategic value. Okay. So I responded by saying, well, if they're of strategic value, you should sell them as quickly as possible because you and the ANC have broken everything else that's of strategic value. And that was my message to Fikile.
Yeah.
So anyway, he's polite and we call each other now and again.
Yes.
But whatever. He's not minister I don't know what he does now. He's ANC now.
That's an interesting.
They keep moving him because he gets nothing done in every.
He's the Secretary General now.
Yeah. Ridiculous.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. So what do you think of the relationship that's deteriorating between South Africa and America?
Well deserved. Well deserved.
Well deserved.
Yeah. I think America's right. In just about every United Nations vote, South Africa probably doesn't even read. They don't even do their homework. They don't read. They just vote against America. They take aid from America and they treat America with disdain. So it's about time America said to South Africa, stuff you. Particularly to the ANC. They're 100% right. South Africa behaving like spoilt idiots. And because of the ANC, everyone's like, oh, the Liberation Organization. Well, till 2008, fair enough. ANC did a good job. But when the clowns of Zuma and Ramaphosa came in, they've been treating the West with disdain, but taking the money. South Africa has a trade surplus with America. Trade surplus.
Yes.
And we have a trade deficit, massive, with Russia, India, China, and Brazil. And yet we're rude to America and kissing butt to the other guys. It's insane. The ANC's foreign policy is simply who gives us the money, not the country, the ANC. And Cyril has always put the ANC ahead of the country, even publicly. It's disgusting. So America is absolutely right to be doing what it's doing, and more is to come. You watch.
Sure.
They're going to get a snort clap there.
I remember in the past, President Mbeki used to disagree with President Bush on stances like Iran, but you didn't see President Bush punishing us because of our stances in the geopolitical space. I think this is quite, it's quite severe.
What you're missing, Mbeki, Mandela and Mbeki, international policy was to be non-aligned.
Yes.
Was to work with the East, work with the West when it made sense for South Africa. They put South Africa first. Zuma had no clue, just took the money. And Ramaphosa is blatantly anti-West, anti-American. Ramaphosa's crowd and Naledi, the dreadful Naledi Pandor. Her husband actually is the problem. Naledi's husband. Have a look carefully there.
Yeah.
So South Africa deserves what it is getting. But what really needs to happen is America needs to not hammer South Africa. It needs to hammer the ANC, MK, and EFF. Targeted sanctions on those gangsters is what America should do, and not beat up South Africa, because the South African population, the working people, the poor people, the farmers, the whatever, are going to get hurt by American sanctions. America should instead target the individuals who are causing the problem.
But do you think this is about the white minority? But
No.
I mean, it's just our stance in the geopolitical space. Do you think America is pressing us for us to drop the charges against Israel and also not to be aligned with more the
If
East?
South Africa goes back to being unaligned and neutral.
But aren't we neutral?
No,
Rob?
no, we're right up BRICS, you know what.
Yeah, we are part of BRICS.
No, we're right up their backsides. And we're taking, ANC's taking money from Iran to be an Iranian proxy. Why would South Africa push this case against Israel through the ICJ? Because Iran paid them to do it. Iran paid them to do it.
So you say
America and Israel are very strong allies. You do something like that, you're going to upset America big time. And then America looks, okay, look how much aid we're giving to South Africa. Take that back. They don't deserve it. Correct. And look, all the voting patterns in the UN. South Africa vote against us and everything. Okay, they're the enemy. But what America must hopefully see, South Africa is not the enemy. The ANC are the enemy. The MK and EFF are the enemy. Hate speech, kill the Boer. I mean, these are horrific things. How can you even allow that? How can you even...
But I mean, a whole lot of misinformation has been spread by AfriForum and Solidarity. There is no white genocide in South Africa. There are no land grabs that are happening in this country. Yes, there is legislation. Why can't they go to government and engage them with that?
Because Cyril doesn't
their own geopolitical strategy and directly lobbying
the ANC,
the government.
The ANC for the last 14 years has been disrespecting America, abusing America, taking money from Iran, taking money from BRICS, and voting against America on every aspect. Why should all of a sudden America go, okay, let's listen to Cyril and his view? He had a call, Trump had a call with Cyril, didn't even call him Mr. President, treated him with the disrespect he deserves, and let him know through the G20, where America didn't even turn up. And, in the G20, Cyril's a joke. Cyril tried to get everyone in a photograph in the G20. The Western countries wouldn't even be in a photograph with him. He deserves this disrespect. He is disrespecting South Africa.
We've just seen the European Union coming to South Africa and pledging more investment.
Good.
So
they're socialists. They'll get on with the ANC. The Europeans are wanky socialists. Perfect for the ANC.
Yeah, but so what do you think?
I got you laughing there.
So what do you think of AGOA? Because quite a whole lot of farmers are sending their produce to America. We're also sending cars, the manufacturing at no tariff. So if that is taken away, that will bump out our unemployment to over 50%.
No. It's 0.1% of our GDP.
Is it?
AGOA is not a meaningful. I mean, yes, it does hurt certain sectors.
Yes, like agriculture and manufacturing
as well.
Yeah.
I read this article this morning about the managing director of Citibank saying South Africa should exit AGOA before America kicks us out. But I didn't really follow that logic.
Okay.
I think it's like some junior MD at Citibank trying to be clever.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, all right, let's think about that.
Yeah.
I mean, why should America bother renewing AGOA? I don't know.
Yeah.
In the mandate, in the mission statement of AGOA, it says the countries that respect America and property rights, which South Africa doesn't. So I don't think South Africa will end up being in AGOA. But look, in 1985, you brought up 1985.
Yes,
okay?
yes.
I was 25 years old.
Yeah.
America and the West put heavy sanctions on South Africa. Heavy sanctions, not tariffs. And the Afrikaners in the national government in 1985 got together and made a conscious decision that apartheid was not sustainable. Yes. And that 1985 began the process of handing over of democracy. Democracy's arrival in 1994 began in 1985. But it was a conscious decision. So let's fast forward to 2025. And assume America puts massive targeted sanctions on the bad guys. Naledi, Pandor, Cyril, Julius, Andile, you name them. There are lots of them, okay? Just read the Zondo Commission. The names are all there.
Yes.
Maybe that will cause the good guys in the ANC, not many of them, they're tiny and they're too scared, to stand up and say we need to change direction like the Afrikaners did. If you want economic growth in this country, which is good for all South Africans, you need free markets. This central socialist nonsense that these idiots keep pulling to doesn't work.
Do you think? I think they were also forced to reform, because if you remember, and that's why I'm worried about this thing of the Afrikaner population in South Africa. If you remember, right in the 1980s, they were sent to Angola. They were sent to Angola by the Americans, right, to go destabilize MPLA, right? How many Afrikaners died in that war, right? So that's why I'm saying
a lot more MPLA died.
Yeah, but they.
But what are you saying?
So I'm saying for us to get our democratic dispensation, it wasn't just a decision like, okay, let's stop this.
It was.
They were forced to. No. They could see. I mean, they couldn't contain the uprising. They were losing.
You're wrong.
Southwest Africa.
You're wrong. See why you're wrong. The South African military, unlike the military today, which is pretty useless, South African military, because the ANC's broken.
Angola, right?
They didn't lose in Angola. Here's what happened. You want the truth? South Africa was winning. There was an agreement with America that South Africa would get to Luanda and the Americans would then come in. Jimmy Carter got elected, Democrat, pulled out of the deal. South Africa pulled back to Namibia. South African military was by far the strongest military in Africa. We could have marched all the way up to Nigeria. Was by far the strongest. Umkhonto weSizwe was not even a mosquito on the arm. It was zero threat. Zero. There was no military threat to the National Party. They made a conscious decision to remove apartheid. Sanctions did put a lot of pressure on South Africa, including sporting sanctions, but it was more emotional. They made a conscious decision to give it up, and that's what needs to happen today in South Africa, because the country's run out of money. The ANC's run out of money. We need a leader. It's not spineless Cyril. A leader in the ANC to stand up and say, this isn't working. Let's try the other way. And we need that. And I'm hoping the youth of South Africa, like you, I would love to speak to the ANC Youth League. Please find me a way to go and speak to them, or 10,000 in a room and just me.
Okay.
And I would like to speak to them and say, guys, it isn't working. You've been lied to by these madalas. The way to go is to stand up and adopt free markets. There's no one that's more
We already
capitalist.
have
no
a
one
free
that,
market system, Rob, in South Africa.
not the
You've
government.
got
Not the government.
But obviously the government...
Do you know who the most capitalist people in this country are? Spaza shop owners and taxi drivers. South Africans are capitalists, but the government isn't. It's the government's got this deranged ideology.
Yeah, so I'm like...
we're naturally Christian.
We're
naturally capitalist. Then why does the government want the central control, make all the decisions? So they can steal. It's all about stealing.
Interesting. So you don't want that much state interference?
No. I don't want the national government controlling my life from the Nats from Pretoria, and I don't want the ANC controlling my life from Pretoria. Let South Africans get on with their good at, which is building businesses and working together and loving each other and being cohesive.
And how would you describe the Nats? The Nats were also socialist on steroids.
Yeah.
I mean,
yes.
The power was nationalized, the rails were nationalized, the steel was nationalized, and everyone, like mostly in the white population, they said, no, socialism is wrong. But I'm like, you are empowered by socialism. Most of the skill in South Africa came from state-owned enterprise, state-owned enterprises.
Yeah. Let me give you the difference.
Like how many, the pilots that were created and trained by SAA?
Let me tell you the difference. You're 100% right. The national government was like national socialism, okay?
Yeah,
centralized. As with the ANC, they want all the decisions made by these madalas in Pretoria, and who are stupid. But here's the difference. Within the state-owned enterprises under the national government, you had competent expert people. The ANC replaced them with cadres. This is the difference. So both Nat and ANC love central control, make all the decisions from Pretoria. Socialist type mentality, centralism. The difference is under the Nats, all the state-owned enterprises were run by professionals. Until about 2008, the same thing under the ANC. Eskom, run by professionals, Transnet, and then cadre deployment. They put stupid, incompetent people who were loyal to the ANC, bribed by the ANC, into these positions. And that destroyed every state-owned enterprise. That's the difference.
So you say it ended up like a feeding trough for
a feeding trough, exactly. I heard it here first, folks.
Right. Let's talk about the Ukrainian and Russian war. I see there's a peace deal. I think on Tuesday they signed a ceasefire, a partial ceasefire, 30-day ceasefire, I guess. But what do you think? What's going to happen there? Because on the side, the Russians have taken over eastern Ukraine.
They've taken over 17% of the land of the Ukraine.
Right. So Kherson, Zaporizhzhia, Donetsk, Luhansk, and they also have Crimea as well that they took 2014. And on the other side, you have Trump that wants to secure his loan with precious minerals. So they are being squeezed in the middle.
I'll explain what's happening.
So please do explain.
Trump is operating five-dimensional chess. Okay. What you read and what most people see is Trump being way too friendly to Putin, Trump smashing Zelensky in public, and treating Europe like the wanky socialists they are.
Okay.
Which that's correct. Okay, they deserve that.
Yeah.
That haven't been paying their share, which they haven't. What's really going on is as follows. Trump knows Putin is bad. Putin is evil. However, he's not the main threat to world security. China is. So Trump wants to sort out the Ukraine-Russia situation as quickly as possible.
Okay.
And if Ukraine's got to lose some land, they've got to lose some land. If Russia have to pull out, they'll do it willingly because they're not winning. For one of the greatest militaries in the world, to invade a smaller country and only capture a small piece of territory is pathetic. Russia have lost. It's embarrassing. Their economy is a mess. Their military is weak, pathetically weak. Okay? Russia have failed. They've failed. It's embarrassing. Okay? But what Trump is clever enough to do, and what everybody's missing, is he's treating Zelensky with disdain publicly, treating Europe with the disdain it deserves publicly, which is forcing them to actually fund themselves. And
with NATO.
They're going to stand up and actually spend their own money to defend themselves. Well done, at last. Democrats couldn't have done that.
Yeah.
And it looks like he's being nice to Putin. But in the privacy of Moscow, Steve Wishkoff is facing up to Putin. Are we allowed to swear on your show?
Oh, you can go ahead.
Can we do it?
We don't actually.
Okay, well, I'll say
Yeah.
So Wiskov is saying to Putin,
Yes.
you, little Putin,
Okay.
work for us now. You've lost, you're weak, you're pathetic, and America can smack you senseless. But we're not going to embarrass you in public. We're saying it to you in private. You've lost, you've failed, Putin, and we're stronger than you. And we're going to let you win some territory in Ukraine publicly.
Okay.
We'll say to Ukraine they can't join NATO. We don't really care. NATO's got to stand up for itself. This is I'm speaking hypothetically.
Yes.
And we're going to put into Ukraine American engineers, scientists, business people, and security people at the nuclear power plant, at our soon-to-be-bought lithium and rare earths mines, which they don't really care about. But what they want to do is have Americans in Ukraine so Russia doesn't touch Ukraine again.
Oh, okay.
And you, Russia, are going to pull out, but you're going to take this territory here and pretend you had a successful special military operation. In fact, you failed. Everyone knows it. But in addition, Mr. Putin, you're going to pull your support for Iran. You're going to give us the keys to all the nuclear discussions you had, and you're going to tell us exactly where all their uranium and nuclear operations are, and we're going to let Israel destroy Iran overnight, and that's going to happen relatively soon. Russia's going to pull out. Iran will have no more friends. They're going to get smacked. And the ANC is going to run out of money.
Yeah.
And then America's going to focus on the real threat to world peace, which is China. And China knows it's coming. So once Ukraine-Russia problem's out of the way, once the Iran problem is out of the way, America's going to focus on China.
But the Americans, they thought by funding Ukraine, this will weaken Russia. But
that was Democrats.
That objective wasn't
Russia
achieved.
is weak. Russia's lost hundreds of thousands of troops. Its military has been shown to be not very strong. Can't even invade Ukraine. It's failed. I mean, your buddies, Russia, not that strong or that smart.
No, it's interesting. What do you say about NATO expansion in Eastern Europe?
So NATO is already, Russia's failed spectacularly because Sweden and Finland have joined NATO. Russia's border against NATO is doubled. Okay, they can't even invade.
Even in the Baltics.
They can't even invade Ukraine properly. How are they going to defend against Finland, Sweden, and Poland?
But they said that was like a special military operation, not a full-scale war.
Oh, yeah,
Imagine if they came
with what? With what? 1950 tanks. The Russians are pathetic. They're weak as hell.
That's an interesting. So what are you
by the way,
saying?
ANC chooses good allies. Useless, pathetic Russia, evil Iran.
Yeah.
And the Chinese. I mean, ANC really got their brains put together to choose those allies.
But look at Saudi. They're also joining up in BRICS and all the developments.
Let me talk about BRICS. Who was the second president to go and see Trump? Modi.
Yes, Modi, the Indian. Yes, yeah.
India's part of BRICS. Brazil's part of BRICS. Those are capitalist, democratic countries. And Saudi is going to be one of America's biggest allies in the Middle East if it isn't second already to Israel. And these are BRICS members. They would rather do business with America than hang out with the Russians and Chinese and South Africa, the embarrassing little South Africa. Which would you rather be a member of? America, Europe, South Korea, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, all those wanky BRICS countries. I mean, come on. Where would you rather go on holiday? England, France, Italy, and America, or Russia? I mean, come on, not even a choice. How many people are leaving to go to Russia and Iran? None. How many people are leaving?
When have you been to Russia?
I've been quite a lot of times. I went in the 80s when they didn't even have advertising, and at night, Moscow
it was the Soviet Union at that time.
It was fascinating.
No, it's an interesting one. So what do you say, how do we then reconnect with the Americans? What should we do?
Okay, very good question. Yeah. Don't send anti-Semitic idiots like Ibrahim Rasool as an ambassador, for a start. Okay, what a clown. I think we need to step up. We need to reverse EWC. We need to reverse BEE. We need to show we're serious about shifting our economy onto a free market basis. We really do. Not just for America, but for economic growth and to save this country. And I really mean that.
Yes.
It's got to happen soon. We need to be much more respectful to not just America, but to the West. Instead of abusing them, and having moronic allies like Iran and Libya and idiots, be unaligned and vote on things practically, not because your moronic ideology says so.
Not ideological.
I would actually change the
nostalgia.
foreign minister from a ANC person to maybe make Gayton McKenzie, shift him from sports and arts and make him the foreign minister.
You reckon?
Yeah.
So you want someone who's not part of the ANC.
And he's not spouting a failed ideology, but he's unaligned. He goes, okay, America, this makes sense. I want what's best for South Africa.
Yeah.
We'll agree with you on this. Okay, Russia, we'll agree with you on this because this makes sense for South Africa. And whoever it is needs to put South Africa first and not keep putting the ANC first.
In the case with Israel, would you withdraw it?
100%. It was paid for by Iran. It's got nothing. Why do we care?
But the ceasefire is also broken now. I mean,
forget why are we worried about having troops in the Congo and worrying about what happens in Israel and Gaza? Why do we worry about what happens in South Africa? Why don't we fix this country and forget about international affairs? Why can't we put South Africa first for once?
Yeah, but I mean, if there's safety in Congo and safety in Zimbabwe, then we can start the trade. Can start
nonsense. Where do you get that idea?
Nonsense. The Africa investment that invests.
Why?
Africa.
What?
So
why do we have troops in the Congo?
The security of Africa is beneficial to South Africa.
No, nonsense. Where do you get that from?
Yeah, I mean,
where do you make that? You made that up.
But look at how many, Rob. Look at how many illegal foreigners are coming in.
Right, now you've answered the question.
That's the
bingo.
Yeah.
So shouldn't we rather have our soldiers on the border than up in the Congo? What are they doing in the Congo? You know what they're doing? They're protecting ANC mining interests. They're not doing anything useful, and they're getting killed because they're undertrained, underfunded, and useless. They're getting their butts kicked by whoever those guys are, Rwandan guys. Our army is pathetic. Our police are pathetic. Anything the government runs has become pathetic. So why are you worried about what we do in Israel and Gaza? We should forget about it. Let them sort it out and focus on South Africa and South Africans. Explain that to me.
Yeah.
Why do you want to talk about all these international? We should talk about putting South Africa first and fixing South Africa and making it a better place for all South Africans. Shouldn't that be the job of government?
Yeah, it should be, but we should also look at, I honestly do feel that, we need to look at other neighboring countries as well, because if their economies are working, then the trade can...
We should overthrow Mnangagwa. South Africa should kick that idiot out of Zimbabwe.
But he's democratically...
It's not a democracy. These polls are rigged, pal. You know that.
Yeah.
We should firm our border. We should do Amahambe, get rid of illegal foreigners, 10 million of them or 8 million. Get rid of them. Send them back to their countries. I agree with Gayton on that one.
You agree with him?
100%, because he says correctly, when you're in a home affairs line or you're lining up for the doctor, you've got 20 people in front of you that aren't South African citizens. So you've got 4 more hours of waiting and they get treatment before you and they're not paying taxes. They're illegal.
Yeah.
Get rid of them. Get our troops back from the Congo, put them on the border, strengthen our borders, and put South Africa first.
Yeah, interesting one. And what do you think of Geopolitics' interest to become the South Africa ambassador?
I think he's brilliant.
Yeah, but he's been very hostile.
He's not. He's just telling the truth. Why do you think it's hostility? You think it's hostility.
Yeah, I mean...
But you don't see ANC's behavior as hostile.
No, I also do see the government. Yeah, but I'm like, is that a good way if you want to form relations with a country? He's even married to a Kadali.
I don't blame him. Firstly, I think he's highly intelligent. He's calm, he's rational, he's insightful. He'd be the perfect ambassador. Can't South Africa find someone like that as our ambassador to America instead of that clown, Ibrahim Rasool? We put Ibrahim Rasool, we named the Lela Khaledi Drive. Why? You tell me why they did that.
To send Ibrahim Rasool to America?
No. In Johannesburg, in Sandton, outside the American embassy. Why did they do that? Why did they do that? You answer me.
Yeah, I don't know. Because
you do know.
Yeah. Why do you think they do it?
Because they're anti-Semitic morons. And they piss America off purposely. And then you're surprised why America gets upset. Can you not see it for what it is?
So you're saying they are deliberately daring America.
Deliberately. And the minute America completely puts targeted sanctions on Cyril, Naledi Pandor, her husband, all those Imtiaz Suleiman, all those nasty anti-Semitic, anti-American, anti-West humans, the better.
The better it is.
The better. And then you should not be surprised because the ANC for the last 15 years has been poking the Americans in the eye. And now they're getting their just desserts. So why were you going to be surprised?
It's sad.
Geopolitics telling the truth. He's being very rational. It's not sad. It's expected.
So you think he is going to get the job, or he's still?
I don't know. I don't think
still a sales pitch to Trump. What he's actually?
I don't understand why ambassadors exist. What's the point? Can't they just pick the phone up and talk to each other?
So you don't think ambassadors should exist?
I don't really understand the concept anymore. It's a bit anachronistic. It's a bit old-fashioned. Having someone in a big house in Pretoria, Cape Town that you go talk to. Just pick the phone up to.
But they mainly look after the interest of the country, that specific country.
The consul does it.
Yeah,
I don't get. Anyway, I don't get that sort of old world thing.
Yeah,
South Africa should hand over foreign affairs to a non-ANC person.
Who do you think?
Corné Mulder.
Okay.
Gayton McKenzie.
Gayton, I think it's too.
Solly Malatsi.
Yeah, I don't think Gayton would be a good one
He'd
for
be
that.
brilliant.
He's
What? Finish the sentence.
So Solly.
Finish the sentence.
No, he's not diplomat. He just says it like.
I like that because I say it like it is.
Yeah.
I think Gayton would be superb. I think Solly Malatsi would be superb. Helen Zille would be superb.
Zille.
Awesome. I think there are tons of good people.
But do you think we should?
I think Mteto Nyati, chairman of ESCOM. I mean, he would be the best ambassador, best head of foreign affairs imaginable. That is a skilled, non-political, highly intelligent. I mean, he's a god. Why not him? And he's non-political, so he's not ANC or DA or anything else. Put a guy like that as head of foreign affairs and say, let's make South Africa unaligned. Let's do what's best for South Africa in each situation and not be beholden to Iran, beholden to Russia, and anti-American. Be transactional. Do what makes sense and put South Africa first. Yeah.
What is your end goal, Rob, with being so politically vocal? Do you want to start a movement maybe? Because most entrepreneurs are extremely quiet. I mean, obviously they are looking over their interest. If you look at Elon Musk in America, he's lost so much money. Yeah. So what have you lost with...
I've lost a fortune. I've been kicked out of businesses that I founded. I've had to pretend I'm not a shareholder in other businesses because my poor partners suffer the consequences.
Yeah.
I have lost millions and millions of dollars, and it's put my family and friends under huge pressure. I do it for no upside and unlimited downside. But because you asked me why I'm doing it and what's the end goal, I love this country so much. I've lived everywhere in the world, and I don't want to be anywhere else but South Africa. I love people like you. I love the people in the street. I love the car guard. I like the business people. I love this country. And I want to tell the truth and do what I can to try and get the people in power to change direction for the good of all South Africans. And if I'm doing that, I'm doing a good job. And if I'm not doing that, I'll stop and go and lie on the beach for a while.
Yeah.
So there is no end game. I'm just going to keep going and try and persuade people that it's madness where we are.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to fix. And we need to come together. This whole black-white thing, the blaming whiteness on the problems. The ANC's been in charge for 30 years. They are to blame. And the majority of South Africans need to admit that this is not working. It's time to change. We need to get together. Black, white, colored, Indian, blah, 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 pink, yellow, green, shapes and sizes. Love each other, work together, be cohesive, and make South Africa great. Let's make South Africa great.
That's an interesting...
and if you look at 94 to 2008, South Africa was great. It was a meritocracy. It was growing. It was... Let's get that going again.
So do you encourage other entrepreneurs and business people to be more vocal?
I've given up on them. Everyone's, for some reason, they're just scared. They're scared.
Yeah.
They're scared they're not going to get their license renewed. They're scared that the unions are going to come after them. They're scared that their BE partner will blah, 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 blah. Scared. I've given up. I've actually given up trying to get, I could mention some extraordinary South African business people and entrepreneurs that you should have on your show.
Yeah,
by the way, you have a great
Christopher Visa would be
Christo
great.
might do it. Christo might do it. He's an amazing guy. But everyone else goes, oh, Rob, I don't want to jeopardize my position or say something I'll regret. It's pathetic.
I can imagine.
It's pathetic.
Yeah.
Christo's a good one. We should ask him.
Visa would be great. Yeah.
So I tell it like it is. I mean, what I've said on your show today. I could be shot, arrested, abused, not invited. I don't get invited to many things anymore.
Yeah. Even
I was so excited when you invited me on your show. It's one of the few invitations I've got.
Yeah, it's
listen, well done on what you're doing.
Thank you very much.
Well done.
Thank
Amazing.
you very much.
You're an entrepreneur.
Yes.
You do this.
And I also do this as well. Yeah, but last but not least, what is your ambition for South Africa going forward? Do you still have hope for this country and its people?
I'm currently 4 out of 10.
4 out of 10.
Yeah. 5 out of 10 would be neutral. 6 out of 10 would be slightly positive. 4 out of 10 is slightly negative. I think where we are right now, with the budget not being agreed, with the ANC still refusing to cut costs and focus on economic growth, with MK and EFF being nasty, evil organizations. My wife woke up the other morning and said, I love this country so much. She's from New Zealand. She said, I love this country. It's worth fighting for. But I really don't think it stands a chance. Isn't that sad when...
You're really pessimistic about it.
Yeah. I'm not 1 out of 10. I'm 4 out of 10.
4 out of 10.
If some people in the government can actually do the right thing for once, stand a chance.
And who do you think might win on the 2027 conference, the African National Elective Conference?
Who cares? They're all worse than the other.
Don't you think Patrice Motsepe is going to throw his hat in the ring?
No.
I think he might.
Patrice, no. There's a 0 chance.
0 chance.
Yeah. His life's too good. Why would he bother?
I think he's got the ambition to go for it. Not strong enough, is it?
He's a nice guy. He's intelligent. He's compassionate. He's decent. He was the first African to sign the Giving Pledge, which is Bill Gates' project to give away 1/3 of your wealth when you die to charity.
Oh,
he was the first. He was the first. Patrice was the first African to sign it. And I've eternal respect for him. And I like him, and he's just too scared. He should stand up and say, look, Cyril, this isn't going in the right direction.
They're family.
So what? I'd tell my dad. I'd tell my brother. Why can't you say that? I mean, if he stood up and actually said the right thing, he would have gone to, he'd be a saint in my view, but he's the wrong guy. So, and I hate to say his name again, but Mteto Nyati would be phenomenal, but he's not ANC.
He's not an ANC member.
Who in the ANC? I mean, they're all worse than the next guy. It's got to come from a next generation. The
Deputy President, Paul Mashatile.
Oh, no, he's terrible. No, he's dreadful.
Yeah.
Do not get Paul. He's EFF in disguise, in my view.
Interesting.
So I don't know. My view is who cares? The ANC must fall apart rather than care. Who the
and
next
also with the local government elections that are coming.
God, can you imagine Gauteng?
It's an interesting one. But thank you very much, Rob. I really enjoyed this discussion. And wishing you all the best this year. And I hope you come back again.
Let's get your subscribers through 50K as quickly as possible.
Exactly.
Okay. And if I can help you in any way, let me know. I love what you're doing.
Yes. Thank
You're
you.
the best.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Subscribe, everyone.
Yes.